President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's visit to Brazil concluded with the signing of several memoranda of understanding aimed at strengthening ties between Nigeria and South America's largest economy. Tinubu announced new frameworks for cooperation in trade, investment, cultural exchange, and most prominently, the establishment of direct flights between Lagos and Sao Paulo. For exporters and investors, it could simplify logistics and open access to markets that have remained underutilized. Tinubu also attended the opening ceremony and plenary of the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD-9, on August 20 in Japan. Joining us on this show to discuss the gains of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's shuttle to Japan and Brazil is Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, Prof. Good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Ayo. Nice to have you back.
Good morning.
And thank you for having me on your program.
Good morning, sir. Thank you so much. Good to have you on the show.
Well, your favorite program. You say you prefer the morning show to other programs, even if we reserve the prerogative to invite you as you wish. But however, Prof, what are the gains of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's diplomacy? Some people complain that he travels too much. He says he's looking for investment. My own position is that he's the chief foreign policy officer of the country. He's the chief marketer of the country. I may object to all these stopovers in Los Angeles, in Dubai, and all that. But as president, he has an obligation to sell Nigeria. But I also argue that the Foreign Affairs Ministry of this time, not of your time, does not do enough follow-up. We sign all these memoranda of this understanding, that understanding. How are we putting those memoranda into effect? But just to listen to you first about what you think.
Well, thank you very much. You've put your finger on the issue. You've put your finger on the issue. Yes, the president is really the chief marketer for Nigeria. He markets the country. And in this day and age when we have ambassadors on seat all over the world, the president does that job effectively. And the point you have always made is that it is now left to the civil servants back home to make sure that the agreements that are signed are implemented. Nobody can say that Petrobras should not come back to Nigeria. And it's evidence that within the gas and oil industry, there is still a lot of room for others to come in. There's no one who is going to say that Varig cannot come back to Nigeria to allow for direct flights in conjunction with Air Peace to fly between Nigeria and Brazil. The economies of both countries speak for themselves. So the gains that the president has made on paper justify these trips that he has made. But as I said, and I think you are right to always remind us, it is implementation when those agreements are brought back home. And I think the message should be addressed to the civil servants. But I also must say that there is a lacuna. In the villa itself, if you go back to the time when you were in government, you had advisors on foreign policy within the villa. IBB did, Obasanjo did. These are the people who will make sure that the civil servants implement or keep their toes firmly on the agreements that are brought back. There is a lacuna in the villa at the moment. I don't know who is handling foreign affairs. Once the president comes back, his attention goes to domestic issues. And God knows there are enough domestic issues for him to concentrate on. He needs an advisor on foreign policy in the villa who also will now keep an eye on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to ensure that these agreements are implemented.
All right, thank you so much, sir. And absolutely, I do agree with you with regards to having a special advisor to follow up, to advise the president, and also to ensure that agreements reached abroad are followed through from the home front. But also, another point that I'd like you to speak on, which Dr. Bati had highlighted earlier, was this issue around us not having enough money to maintain our foreign posts abroad and the significance of having ambassadors in office in different stations internationally. What's your take? Should this become priority for this administration? Because they've gone over 2 years without announcing ambassadors or deploying ambassadors to foreign missions. What's your take on this?
Well, it is a very unusual position for 2 years not to have ambassadors in post. I think the president owes us really an explanation. There must be something there, and that makes it in a way difficult for me to explain. Well, no, it's not my job to explain. It's the job of the foreign minister or Bayo Nonuga to explain why we don't have ambassadors in post. It cannot be due to lack of money, because since this government has come on board, you could see how revenue has increased. And what they've done with the revenue is to increase money going to the states, increase money going to the National Assembly. Surely, part of this increase in revenue could have been made available, put ambassadors in their different posts. In this, our discipline is very, very unusual for a government not to put ambassadors in post for 2 years. Because in a way, 2 reasons. Governments or countries interpret your feeling towards them, how you grade them, by whether you have a fully functioning embassy. When you leave the top posts empty, in a way, yes, the president can go visiting, and yes, they will give him all the honors and give him all the attention. But on everyday to-day activities happen on the diplomatic plane in each country. You have situations where they have their national day, where you expect attendance at the very top. They notice your ambassador is not there. There are issues where the Minister of Foreign Affairs may wish to discuss with the top man in your embassy. They notice the absence of your ambassador. Then what is even more important to me is we campaign for posts. We've always said we want that permanent post in the Security Council of the United Nations. Nations in the world are going to vote when that issue comes up. And when you don't have an ambassador at post who has taken several opportunities to raise this issue, even if it's with the president, shaking hands with the president on the National Day celebration, Your Excellency, please don't forget that I've raised this issue being represented. When that ambassador is not there, a chargé d'affaires cannot perform that position. And then, at the last minute, when the UN then declares that elections are going to be held in 90 days, that's when you then start sending people around to campaign. No, it doesn't work that way.
Prof, sir. Okay. A couple of questions. Prof, actually,
yes.
the problem is money. I'm sure you read the paper 3 days ago where a representative of the foreign ministry said they actually have budgetary constraints and there's no money. In fact, I got a message by somebody yesterday that was talking about, maybe one of the Nigerian embassies in Europe that they've not been paid for over 6 months, that they're just starting to clear their wages. So we have big money problems with that. But, sir, why did we lose the Brazil trade ties in the first place when you became foreign minister to IBB after the counter-trade era? Can you tell us that story, sir?
Sure that we lost. No. You are not going to put this on my head. The loss of position between Brazil and Nigeria. I don't remember the issue coming up, honestly. If it has come up, I bet you IBB would. You see, IBB was an activist, not only as president, but also in foreign affairs. I was doing, and when I take issues to him, he says, "That's your field. Let me concentrate on domestic affairs." If it had been brought to my attention that Brazil and Nigeria were at loggerheads, and I know we had problems, yes, you are right, with that counter-trade problem, but it didn't really become a major issue for me, honestly. Because if you recall, when I was putting together this concert of medium powers, Brazil was one of the countries that I nominated to the president, IBB, and he approved, and Brazil attended all the conferences that we had when I was on seat. So our relationship with Brazil was very good, and there's no doubt that, at least in my own conception, Brazil was one of the countries that we should be growing with at par. So I don't remember a major issue between us.
Even when when the structural adjustment program SAP kicked in and we had economic encumbrances and they couldn't repatriate the Brazilian funds because of the problems with our own economy here. Can you remember what happened?
Maybe that issue was taken up with the Maybe that issue was taken up with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Chu Congo or KIK, Kalu Idika Kalu. It was not treated as a foreign policy issue. It wasn't.
Okay, Prof.
Okay.
There's an issue.
And you will understand that there is no way, as a foreign minister, I could have made decisions on repatriation of money. It will have been Chu Congo or KIK or even Chief Lufalai, while I focused on the political aspects of our. I've got to go back to this issue you raised about that is a money issue. And the point I'm making is, how could it be a money issue when you are increasing the revenue that's coming from the federal allocation to states? You are increasing the money that is going to the National Assembly to increase the allowances and so on. And then it's a question of prioritizing how you distribute your money. We are not a poor country. The federal government is not a poor agency. It's not about to go broke. And that's the point I'm making, that the excess revenue that have been generated in the past 1 year, why should the foreign ministry not have gotten the share that it needs to keep embassies running. There must be something
Okay,
there.
Prof.
I don't know what it is.
Okay, Prof. Yeah, it's easy to
Yes.
agree with you that
Yes,
it's
Dr.
a priority issue. After all, for more than 2 years, we have not appointed ambassadors, whether career or political, appointees to our various missions. So those missions are just running on autopilot, as a familiar phrase, states. However, I'd like to ask you, this, conferences, summits, today Tokyo summons African leaders, next tomorrow is France, the other day it's Arab. We keep going from one conference to the other. One of my own, arguments is that African leaders go to these conferences, they lack the capacity, either intellectual or technical, to hold the strong end of the stick. And so you have all those somersaults with the Belt and Road, project with China. You have somersaults, in international affairs. We say we go to Japan, come and invest in Nigeria. But they come here, they are contractors. We bring the Chinese, they come here, they treat our people badly. Now, how do we find this technical capacity to negotiate? The intellectual capacity that is required. Not just Nigeria, it's not only Nigeria that's having problems. Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, all these are countries, African leaders. They just go on a jamboree, as some people will say. Sir? Hello, sir.
Sorry, I didn't. Yes, I didn't hear your last question.
No, I say, it makes these summits look like they are jamborees.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Abati, optic-wise, and I think I've said it on this program, optic-wise, and I believe you agree with me, I never liked the idea of all African leaders marching into a country for a conference. Japan summons us, and we all go. China summons us, and we all go. Turkey summons us, and we all go. I have never liked it. And optic-wise is master summoning servants, master summoning slaves. I have never liked it. I have no objection at all to one-on-one diplomacy, one-on-one conferences. But a situation where one country summons 54 African leaders and they all go, I have never liked it. And optic-wise, to me, it looks disgraceful. That's the first point. The second point is we must accept that diplomacy has become the art of specialists. Before they come for a conference, the Chinese have already spent 6 months looking at what they intend to achieve, and their documents are ready. In Africa, do we use experts, or do we simply regard it as a bureaucratic thing? Today, you appoint somebody as director in Asia, and then he's posted out as ambassador to Europe, not even to Asia, to Europe. And then you bring in somebody else who is coming from Latin America, and you make him director of Asia. The bureaucratization of issues is going to be the death of Africa. We have to accept that there are specializations, and those specializations have to keep people on desk. And before you go to these conferences, what do you intend to achieve? What are the best deals that you can get from these conferences? But what we do is to even depend on documents prepared by the other side. Oh yes, we prepared all the normal, language, that the diplomatic language that we use, and that is fine. But the specificity of what we intend, what we would like to have, whether from China, I have read, I don't know, it could even have been one of your articles, I'm not really sure, but I have read somewhere that we never get the best that even China is prepared to offer, because we are
Prof.
looking at, minor things that we should not even be interested in.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining us on The Morning Show.